The Mini Orion drone. I've made a few videos on this thing and I have been thrilled with it. It's worked well for me. However, I felt that it's only fair that I make another video to show some of the things that it doesn't do so well. Just so it tempers any enthusiasm anyone that hasn't experienced one or doesn't know anything about them might have before they go out and buy one. So we're going to cover a few of those things in this video. First and foremost, let's talk about build quality. I've covered this in one of my videos. I mean, it's very flimsy made, it flexes, but I find that that helps this thing bounce off stuff and take hard landings without any damage. But, mine worked right out of the box. I have seen videos where people purchase these things and the props, like this one would spin at one speed and this one would spin considerably slower, while this one might be even faster than all of them. Well, on a drone, that creates a huge problem. These all have to sync up and spin at the same speed. Otherwise, you're going to have some huge problems. Now, I don't know how often that happens, but I can say, just, quality-wise, this thing's put together as cheap as possible. I have seen multiple reports where these cameras were upside down, installed from the factory upside down. So that can only make me assume that, these are obviously pushed out as quick as they can make them. So it's kind of one of those, you get a good one or you get a bad one. If you get a good one, like this one, I think they make a great little drone, so long as your enthusiasm is tempered by reality. So quality-wise, very flimsy. Matter of fact, I even had a crack develop on this prop without any damage to it. It just developed a crack, and I went to take it off one time. It got about a foot off the ground, and this prop flew off and shot at me, and then it bounces back down to the ground. Of course, I replaced it with the included prop, and I contacted the company that makes this because this is supposed to have a 6-month warranty through QVC. And within a day, they responded back to me, wanted to know my QVC order number, what parts I needed, and that they would get them out to me. So they actually back up the product, so that's great. But, quality, it's cheap little components, so keep that in mind. You got to make sure you get a good one. Next, let's talk about the camera. I've talked about this camera in a couple of videos, but, and I did just mention that some people have gotten them installed upside down or received them installed upside down. But, the quality of this thing, and you saw my video where I made a little buffer to try to help with the vibration. But there's just some harmonic resonance or something that affects this camera. That means if you're wanting any sort of quality video, this is not your drone and not your camera. This is 2 megapixel. Actually makes 720p video. But when you're flying, and you've seen my indoor footage, where the video is just a little shaky, well, outside, that gets even worse, because outside you're fighting wind, so you're having to give it more throttle to make things happen, and more throttle just leads to more, and I say shakiness, with this in there, with this little pad in here, that helps with the shakiness, but then you're still getting this harmonic resonance or something. It's just waves through the video, and they get really bad if you're really having to get on, if there's any slight wind and you're really getting on the throttle. You get a lot of waves in the video, making it useless for any quality. You wouldn't want to upload it to YouTube to impress people, or you can't make a video of, hey, I'm going to make a video of a couple getting married or something, and, come out with some cinematic masterpiece. You're definitely not going to get that. So this is, as far as a video drone goes, it's a toy, and that's about it. Battery life, I've mentioned, and it is fair to note that that's not isolated to this drone. Comes with a tiny little 650 milliamp battery. You're going to get about 5 minutes out of this, 6 if you don't do video. But that's any of these little drones. Matter of fact, you could spend thousands of dollars on a drone, and I can guarantee you, however long it's in the air, you're going to want more time. Doesn't matter if it had a 30-minute battery life or not. That's just the reality. So don't, get one of these and have grand illusions of flying it around for 15 or 20 minutes on one battery. Not going to happen. I got two batteries, and you saw in one of my other videos, I upgraded it with this battery. Adds a few minutes. So battery life, any small drone, any cheap drone, you're going to get about the same flight time, which is 5 or 6 minutes. Let's talk about control and the controller. First and foremost, I've mentioned previously you can hit autopilot, go down on your stick and then back up, and it's going to jump up to take off, and then you can get it to set to a height and it will auto hover, which is another huge plus of this little drone, in that there are not a lot of drones in its price range that do what it does and have built-in auto hover that actually works. And it does auto hover incredibly well. Now it will drift around, you know, because I mentioned you're going to have to fight with trim. This doesn't have any sensors that give it any orientation, so it will, you know, wander around. You'll have to try to trim it out. You never get it perfect, but you can get it close. Close enough to control. And also, it's important to note for any new people that auto hover doesn't mean you can then set it and then start controlling it around and the height doesn't change a little bit. Because when you give it forward input, it might sink a little bit because it's, you know, having to lean to pull down, something like that. But it'll pull itself back up. But the auto hover does work pretty well. But that gets to the controller. Let me get this out of the way here. Gets to the controller and the real downside. It's not really the controller, it's the LCD screen, because the controller actually does work well. The return assist, I don't know if I've covered that, but there's return assist. You have to be careful with that. A lot of people think you're going to hit that and the drone's going to mysteriously come back to you and land right in front of you. Not the case on this little cheap drone. That just, the second you hit it, wherever it's at, it's going to give it an input to boom, start coming back towards you, which in my experience, it's usually went off to the right of me for some reason. But it just kind of gives it one input, leans it real hard, and it pulls it back until you tell it to do something else. So remember that. And then easy mode, I think it launches when you start this thing out. It's automatically in easy mode, because then you have 3 speeds. And you can hit it again, go to speed 2, again to speed 3, which just means speed 1, speed 2, speed 3. Changes the lean of the drone so that it'll go faster in one direction. But LCD screen, big downside. LCD screen works. It actually displays in real time what the drone sees. So it does a remarkably good job of that. And I've never had it lose sync. You know, I think I've only flown this thing about 150 feet away from me. But it the entire time it's held sync. The problem is this screen is a cheap little screen. Remarkably good display quality as far as the resolution, but it's like those old cheap cell phones where you had those cell phones where you took them outside and you couldn't see them in the daytime. Same thing with this screen. If it is a sunny day, you're not going to be able to see it, so it's practically worthless unless it's a cloudy day or you're indoors or something. I mean, on a decently lit sunny day, I have no chance of seeing this thing. It's just too bright. Even with this hood and even trying to bend it down and things, I can't see because it's so bright and the screen just isn't bright enough and there's no brightness adjustment. That's probably a deal killer to a lot of people, because as I've covered, the camera is, you know, it's kind of toy quality. It's 2 megapixel, does technically 720p, but that waves and the resonance means you're not going to get any good video. So that means that, and I've previously said that, it's only really useful for using that, you know, kind of view of the drone to fly it around. Well, if it's a sunny day, you go over a house, you go over to the other side of a house, and you think you're going to go around in the backyard and then fly yourself back using what it sees. If it's sunny, you're going to really struggle. You're going to probably have to put a hood over it or, you know, shield it somehow, because that's a big deal. So you need to really consider that when you are considering buying this drone. You know, if that's the main factor that you're going to buy it for. And one last thing that I wanted to cover was more getting back to the drone, involves the controller, but getting back to the drone and, you know, the auto hover, and I mentioned it would wander around. This is a cheap little drone. It doesn't have any sensors, no GPS, no proximity sensors, you know, nothing like that that a more expensive drone would have. So because of that, it's totally dependent upon your input. So if you are a novice flyer, it's really easy to get yourself in trouble and to crash this thing. Now, you know, this is durable and it'll bounce off stuff and take a lot of abuse. But you have to be really, really careful, and maybe I'll do some other videos talking about things you can do to control them on your first few flights. But I'm sure there's plenty of other videos that people far more skilled than myself can even help you out with. but no GPS sensors, no proximity sensors, so that autopilot will only just tell it, hey, start reducing the throttle and start landing. If it's windy, it's blowing as it lands. I mean, I've had it on a 6-7 mile an hour gust come through, and it lands 20 feet from where I'm only 10 feet in the air, and it lands 20 feet over, drifted that far, and then hit and kind of bounced and fell over because of the wind. So if you want something that you can kind of set it and forget it a little bit, you're going to have to step up to something more expensive. Maybe something like this. This is a Unique Breeze, but you're going from $79 to $400. This has GPS, this has some sensors that enable it to judge its distance from the ground. So when you hit land on this, it can use its own data. This doesn't have its own data. You are its own data. So remember that if you're going to be, wanting to fly it outside and use kind of the autopilot, which isn't really auto. It just, get it started up and then you can hover with it. But beyond that, this will do nothing for you. You have to do everything yourself. So I just wanted to cover all those. I'm very happy with this drone. I love it. I'm going to keep it. $79. It's a great little drone to just bounce around and not have to worry, if something too bad happens to it, because they have got a 6-month warranty. Even if I lose it, if it went out of the way, they'll send me a new one. $400 is fun, and that's cheap for a quality drone. It's $400, but $400, if that thing took off on me and I never found it again, that's gonna greatly dampen my spirits, as opposed to something that I send an email to a company and they send me another one. Breeze wouldn't do that. So keep all that in mind. Screen kind of sucks for daylight flying. It's a dumb drone in essence. You have to tell it what to do, and the camera is just there to say it has a camera. It's not really going to give you much of anything. But other than that, I just wanted to kind of make this video to kind of temper expectations, because I'd seen a few messages from people that I got the impression were taking what I was saying as thinking, hey, this is the best thing in the world. It's not. It's good for what it is, but that is all it is what it is, if that even makes any sense. But thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Keep flying. Have some fun. And I'll have some Breeze 4K footage coming soon. And I'll also have some of the outdoor footage that I've done with it. Oh, yeah. One last thing. The video footage, I don't know if this is isolated to my drone or not, but something about this card, and I've tried another card in it, another memory card, and it does the exact same thing. It makes periodic black frames. I've seen black frames and I've seen red frames. Well, the problem is, if you have like iMovie or Final Cut Pro or something like that, I'm a Mac user. I don't know about any Windows video programs, but even QuickTime has problems with this. And you try to export it, this comes out as an AFI, I believe. If you come back with trying to export it or something like that, those dropped frames or those black frames, and they're just randomly placed, are going to mean you can't export the video because it's going to hang up on those frames. So I've had a problem even with that. Exporting video, matter of fact, the final bits that I'll actually upload of actual outdoor flying, I've had to chop them all up and cut out large segments of them just because of those little dropped frames. And I don't know why they're occurring or if they happen to other people, if that's just mine or if they're happening to other people. But anyway, all that, just wanted to cover it. Take it for what it is. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.